a lot of great moments that the Colonials have had on the ice. But before we get into that, we've got some news ahead of our regularly scheduled program, don't we?
That's right. Men's basketball and women's basketball finally announced their schedules, as well as the Horizon League announcing the preseason poll for men's basketball. And then, of course, men's hockey has their schedule out as well. So we're finally getting some sense of normalcy a little bit as we take a look at the schedules, and we're going to get right into them now. And we're going to start off with the men's basketball poll, the Horizon League preseason poll, where RMU actually finished in 4th, which is a pretty high ranking coming into the new division. As you can see, men's basketball had a great season last season. They finished with that win, that scintillating victory in the NEC Championship game. And you look at there, I mean, that's pretty close to the top. They're a little bit close there with UIC in 5th, but they're pretty much interchangeable in the top 4.
No, they are. And this is a team that demands respect coming into this year. They might be the new kids on the block, but keep in mind, this is a team that was going to the NCAA tournament last year. This team is hungry. I know that they're not content with how their season ended last year. And having them at 4, I feel it's fair. I feel this is where the Colonials belong on this hill. They shouldn't be at the bottom. You can't expect them to come in. They don't know the competition. This is a competitive team, and I'm looking forward to them making their way and carving their own path out of the Horizon League.
Right, and they actually faced a couple of these Horizon League teams in here and actually had pretty good games against them. So if they can keep up that competition against these guys, who knows what they can do in this upcoming season. But now we're going to move on to some schedules, and we're going to start off with men's basketball. We just saw their poll, but now we're going to take a look at their schedule. And, of course, they've got the non-conference games in November. Point Park, the first time they've played them, I believe. That's going to be November 25th. And then November 28th, they're going to head to Central Michigan to take on them, the Chippewas. And then, of course, December, take a look at that. They got Dunk City on December 2nd. They're far from that now, but the Eagles in Florida Gulf Coast. And then they head back to actually an NEC opponent playing St. Francis. Then, of course, the big matchup against the Big Ten's West Virginia. And then you get into the conference schedule. Cleveland State starting off then at Purdue Fort Wayne. And then you move down a little bit, Jack.
No, yeah, you do. And then once you get into these January, February games, this is where you're going to expect to see the Colonials. I feel like if they're going to get comfortable, this is where they're going to hit their stride. They were able to have a consistent winning percentage last year. I feel like they're going to come in a little bit of cold feet, but don't let it fool you. And how good is it to actually have a sense of when these games are happening, when it's going down, getting back to basics. And again, another team getting back to basics is women's basketball. Their female counterparts on the hardwood, as we take a look at that starting in December, taking on they're at Cleveland State, at Milwaukee. They're going to start with a little bit of a kind of a road trip, if you will. But then once we come back in January, they're going to be back home for 2 games against IUPIU, Illinois, Chicago, and then they're going to head down to Northern Kentucky, stay in the same kind of the same terrain with Wright State and Youngstown State. And then February, you're wrapping up with at Oakland, Detroit Mercy, and Purdue Fort Wayne. Some traveling the Colonials will be doing later, but all the same, looking forward to those games as well.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting to see how they fare, especially with the amount of travel they have, of course, traveling over to Michigan and Wisconsin with Milwaukee in there, as well as Kentucky with Northern Kentucky. So it's going to be a pretty tough schedule for them coming up, but they have proven that they're a pretty good team in the past couple of years. So now we're going to take a look at men's hockey schedule, and this is a big one here. They've actually got the full one laid out, and they're going to start off with a matchup with actually their new coach, Mike Corbett. Used to coach Alabama Huntsville. They're going to start off with the 20th and 21st, and then you've got Bowling Green and Canisius, and of course, and then you move on to December, about the last half of the year right there, the last 2 months, at Air Force on the 4th and 5th, and then the 11th and 12th at Niagara versus that's a home and home, and then of course Bowling Green again on the 29th. They're going to be at Bowling Green. Jack, what they got for the rest of the year though?
No, I mean, well, after Bowling Green, you're looking at RIT, Niagara, Canisius. You're looking at actually all Atlantic hockey opponents. And these are the games of Colonials that are so crucial for this squad to kind of, again, carve their own piece out of this conference. They couldn't really do it last year. We're hoping to see them do it this year. It's a great schedule. It's going to be a tough schedule. No easy games in Atlantic hockey.
That's right, and especially with the new addition of LIU, that's going to be a pretty new thing. So we're going to move on into the top 10 clips of men's hockey. We're going to stay on the ice there. We'll see you after the break.
Roll over. Chance high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique.
And your mother and... I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Stem is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center, and it's time for us to break down the top 10 moments in Robert Morris men's hockey history. And we've got some good ones on this list, and you'll see that to come. And we're going to start off with number 10, taking you back all the way to the ancient year of 2015 when the number 10 Michigan Wolverines came to town and lost to the Colonials. I love reading that. You're going to start out with a goal by Brandon Denham. And then a great defensive play here. The Colonials able to stifle that Michigan Wolverines offense like so many of their opponents. And in comes a steal by Daniel Levens. And not the greatest goal to let up there with an angle. A great shot by Levens, though. And the Colonials are up 2-0. And then here you're going to see this Colonials defense again. Puck's going to move out to the point. A shot's going to go wide. Actually, no, it'll squeak towards the goal line, but they're able to poke it away. And then right here is a great goal by Tyson Wilson, able to tuck that up above the shoulder. And then you will see the Colonials defense once again getting it done. A shutout in this game for the Colonials as they took it 4-0.
Well, that was a big opponent to beat there, but now they move on to the Three Rivers Classic where they've had some pretty good history in it. We're going to take a look at some of these games. They've won it a couple times. We're going to move on into that. We're going to take a look at these games. Start off with 2012, actually. They beat Penn State 6-0, and of course, they got Quinnipiac as well there in 2012. There's a goal. This was in the opening round of play, and Quinnipiac is a very good hockey opponent as well. PPG Paints Arena, one of the early games they've had there at 2012. You can see they're just burying pucks against them. Quinnipiac, once again, a hockey hotbed, if you will, Jack. And moving on a little bit to the rest of that, they beat Penn State 6-0, and then, of course, in the final game, they beat Miami 1-0, and then you move on to 15. Well, this is actually 16, Quinnipiac, where they beat them 5-2 in the final game. Take a nice shot there from the point that's tipped in front, and it was just all Colonials from that point on. They won the Three Rivers Classic.
Confluence Cup, as they call the trophy, but a great. One of the most prominent things about this game is the net front presence the Colonials had the entire game. That's how you're going to beat good goalie, and Quinnipiac always has a good goaltending core. That's how you're going to do it. Well, we're going to move on to number 8, which is the 2018 semifinals of the Atlantic Hockey Tournament, where the Colonials faced off against the Mercyhurst Lakers. That's what it is. And we will take you there now again, back in time. It was so long ago. Colonials getting hyped up in the locker room. This was a tight game, folks. It's always a tight game with these two clashing, and especially in the Atlantic Hockey Tournament. And we have our producer, Matt Simkovic, to thank for this wonderful footage. And right there, you see it, one of Brady Ferguson's 3 goals of the day. 2 coming on the power play, with the last one coming in the third period at 19:15 to complete the hat trick. And it would be Michael Loria in overtime to take that game. The Colonials advance to the championship. Your number 8 moment in men's hockey.
Now, RMU has won a couple of regular season championships, with 2 of them coming back-to-back from 2014-15 to 2015-16. Now, we're going to take a look at the comparison between those 2 teams. Those 2 teams were pretty good, some of the best in RMU's history. Take a look at that. And the records aren't that different, 24-8-5 versus 24-11-4. And then, of course, the goals per game was vastly different, almost half a point difference, Jack.
No, exactly. It's a very, very similar scenario for each team here, and you can see how they were able to amass so much success. You're looking mainly at the offense here. I mean, when was the last time you remember the Colonials averaging almost 4 goals a game?
I don't think that's happened in the last couple of years, but their power play wasn't as actually strong in 2014-15 with only a 22.3% clip, and then of course they moved on. They gained about 6 percentage points in that at 28.1, and then their penalty kill suffered as their power play improved. Take a look there, 86.5%, moving on to 80.7. But these 2 are 2 of the best teams in RMU men's hockey history, and we got to keep talking about them because they're some of the best in the, like I said, the best in the history. But 2 seasons where the record were very similar, a little bit more games played between the 2, but that's the 2 regular season champions there. But when we come back, Jack, we've got the top 6 moments in men's hockey history. Stay tuned for more here on Colonial Sports Center.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? Well, now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Jason, let's go see your room.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes now. Could spend a lifetime trying to figure it out. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center, and I'm not sure if there's a Guinness official around here, but we're going to get into some records anyways. We're going to take a look at the program records here for Robert Morris men's hockey, and we're going to start right off with Cody Wido, who has the goals record in RMU history, his 85th goal of his career, and there it is right there, a nice move in front. He gets it and gets that goal, number 85 all time. And look at those jerseys there, and then we're going to move on to Francis Marat, but Wido right there, that's his official 85th goal, came against Sacred Heart. And of course, that is nothing to sneeze at. 85 goals in 4 years. That's a pretty good clip. Take a look at Wido again. Moves in, gets a nice goal there against AIC. And Wido was just an incredibly prolific goal scorer in his time here at RMU. And look at this one. What a shot against Penn State. And then we're going to take a look here at Francis Marat, who left a bit early in his career, but he still managed to get the wins record here with 50 all time. It came at a little bit of a premium as he wasn't able to win those last few games, but he did end up getting that record. And then, you know, the last one, Brady Ferguson, a guy we keep mentioning, who's moved on to the Toronto Marlies in the AHL and in the ECHL, Newfoundland Grounders. We had him a little bit, but here's Francis Marat here making another save. And that's just, you know, how good he was in his short time here. He transferred on a couple years ago, but Francis Marat just almost saved pretty much everything he saw in his time. As you see here, some of these great saves. And now Brady Ferguson, like I mentioned before, he's moved on to the AHL, and now he's playing in Sweden, where he's got 4 assists in 11 games for Rögle BK and 167 points all time, the leader in RMU history and the most prolific point scorer at the school. And what more can you say about this guy that hasn't already been said, Jack?
No, there's really not much more to be said about these three players, prolific players of the program. You're talking about all-time wins, points, goals. These are the driving force of the program in their golden years, and those are in the 2000 teens. Well, we've moved on from records, and now we're going to be talking about some of those Colonials we just heard about moving on to the pro level. More importantly, we're talking specifically about Cody Wido and Brady Ferguson. Cody Wido went on to have a illustrious career in Wheeling, West Virginia with the resident Wheeling Nailers. If you're from the Pittsburgh area, I'm sure you've heard of the Nailers. They're always nailing it down, getting that Wheeling feeling. Ferguson, on the other hand, was the only RMU player to make it to the AHL. He spent some time with Toronto's farm team, the Marlies, and also played for the Newfoundland Grounders, and now is with Rogel SC, as Gallo had mentioned earlier in the program. But we saw how well these two were able to play. Wido always being able to be around the net. Ferguson with that skill that he brought. And just you can see how these players are able to flourish at that next step. Two of RMU's greats, and that lands them at number 5 on our all-time list.
Yeah, and there's not much more you can say about these two players that hasn't already been said. I mean, they moved on to the pro level, and Brady Ferguson still playing, obviously Cody Wido, both of those guys. But when we actually coming up next, we've got the Derek Schooley, who's been here for a long time as head coach, and he has certainly left his mark on the program. But now we're going to take a look at more in-depth look at his career as Derek Schooley right here. Well, Derek Schooley, you know, he's been here for as long as we've been here, Jack.
He's founded the program. He's the only head coach the Colonials have ever known, and he's been the source of all the success they've had. I know there have been rumblings in the last couple of years on whether...
Oh yeah, there's been rumblings on whether or not he would leave to find a better position or be fired, but certainly, you know, when you stay here as long as he had, you got to be doing something right.
No, exactly, and he's been able to really anchor the program down and be that driving force, also be that captain behind the bench, leading the Colonials to victory and even some losses. But at the end of the day, Derek Schooley is and has been the man for the Colonials. And this is why the hiring and also the tenure of Derek Schooley lands at number 4. It's such a prominent
Well, and take a look here at his star-studded resume. He's got a 191, 153, and 42 record, just a shade under a 550 all-time winning percentage, and he's two-time AHA regular season champion. We actually talked about that earlier, but as you can see down the list, a lot of stuff that Schooley has had. But now we're going to move on to our next moment, number 3, Jack.
That we will. And coming in at number 3 are the 2 Hobie Baker nominations that the Colonials have ever seen, and finalists, excuse me, Hobie Baker finalists the Colonials have ever seen. And that, well, you've heard the names before, you're going to hear them again. Cody Wido and Brady Ferguson, 2, again, the most prolific players in Robert Morris men's hockey history. Excuse me, Zach Lynch. But you see here, Wido, again, we always talk around the front of the net. The year that he was up for the Hobie Baker, Wido posted 54 points with 20%. He had a 20% shooting rate, and this is the season where he was able to notch 48 career goals at the time of his nomination, but the end of the season saw more to that. And again, we're moving on to Zach Lynch, another Hobie Baker finalist that came through RMU. One of the better players RMU had seen. His younger brother Luke plays for the Colonials currently as part of that leading core, just as Zach was. Went to Wheeling last year, and we saw the great skill that Zach Lynch brought. Again, another testament to the great talent that runs through Moon Township.
That's right, and he actually almost had a chance to play with his brother, Zach Lynch, who has now retired. But when we come back, we've got more. Stay tuned here on Colonial Sports Center, the top 2.
Doesn't see race. Love is love.
What are you doing in there?
What's that?
doing? What are you looking for?
How prepared is your family if a hurricane shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a blizzard? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
Let's go.
you'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza. Yes.
Make a plan today.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. And while we saw RMU playing at PPG Paints Arena a couple times, they actually got a chance to play at another prominent Pittsburgh venue in the it was Heinz Field, where the Steelers play. We're going to take a look at that game there. And it was a big game. Anytime you play at Heinz Field, look at this. An outdoor game is always fun. And they play the Niagara Purple Eagles. Love that team. Love that logo. And of course, this matchup, they beat them 5-1 in just an absolutely dominant effort. And their first game at Heinz Field, Jack.
No, yeah, and a great showcase having the outdoor game. You get all that nostalgia. Guys who grow up playing on ponds as kids, they get to do it in an NFL stadium. Not something that happens often. But again, the Colonials came out, put on a great show for the home fans. The Purple Eagles, not their greatest coming out, but at the same time, it was a good Colonials team. And again, a great show they put on for the home fans.
That's right, and actually that was before the Penguins and Flyers Stadium Series game, and what a way to open for an NHL game by beating the Niagara Purple Eagles in front of your home crowd, a division foe. So honestly, this game was just incredible. In terms of an outdoor game standpoint, like you said, pond hockey is something everyone did as a kid when they played hockey, and to do it in just a dominant fashion against a team that plays in your division, a league game of sorts here against the Niagara Purple Eagles is just incredible. 5-1 final at this game, and just what more can you say about playing outdoor than that for Heinz Field?
No, and again, you're looking at these goals, look at these highlights. The Colonials came out ready for this one, and that lands this at number 2. And finally, number 1 on our list of Robert Morris men's hockey all-time moments is way back a decade ago, folks. It was a whole decade ago. In 2010, when the Robert Morris Colonials beat Miami in back-to-back games, the number 5 Miami, the number 1 ranked team in the nation, they were able to beat them twice by a score of 3-1 at Mellon Arena. If you still remember the old arena where the Penguins used to call home, RMU was able to jump out to early leads in both of these games, and it actually kick-started a 4-2-2 stretch after those 2 games. The second game was in Miami, but again, the Colonials were able to piece together a nice winning streak after this. Derek Schooley was quoted in saying that the success in these 2 games against Miami was kind of the driving force behind this quick surge by the Colonials to get by in the standings. And that is your number 1 moment in Rob Morris men's history, taking down number 1 Miami.
Well, and it's a bit crazy how far the team has come in such a short amount of time. Let's take a look at 2010 and the way the jerseys have changed a little bit. But, Jack, what do you think your favorite moment is in these top 10?
I gotta say that my favorite moment in this whole list, I don't want to cop out and say it's one, because I wasn't aware of that when it did happen. I'm still a young man. But if I gotta say, I don't know. It's gotta be, I think it's the 2018 semis game. Just a great showing of the Colonials, their skill, a time where the Colonials were still scoring goals, being able to fight late in games, and they still had those top-tier players. But we've been talking about the ice all night, but it's about to melt, folks, because we have hot takes coming up next. Do not go anywhere, and you might want to put on a bathing suit.
Roll over. Chance high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother and... I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Stand is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center, and as always, welcome back to Hot Takes. I'm joined by the regulars, Luke Yost and Nicholas Hedrick. I called you by your formal name this time.
You're going to have to take that up with some higher powers.
I gave you a little more respect than
Believe
usual,
me,
but doesn't mean I'm not going to take it away. Yost, all right, let's go.
My hot take is that Brady Ferguson, Cody Wido, and Zach Lynch should definitely be moved up higher on this list, at least top 3. These guys are some of the most clutch human beings on this team.
As Creed once elegantly said, can you take me higher? Because I think Derek Schooley should be moved up on this list.
All right. Well, my hot take is that the back-to-back regular season championships should be moved higher on this list. So we're all going higher, but for completely different reasons. Nick, we'll start with you because I'm trying to forget about your singing.
You know what? It was an imitation. The sincerest form of flattery. Anyway, you think of synonymous coaches that are synonymous with programs. John Wooden at UCLA, Newt Rockne at Notre Dame, Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Never mind.
Go Green.
But anyway, Derek Schooley at Robert Morris Hockey. Yeah, maybe he's not on the echelon that the aforementioned guys are at, but without him, there is no Robert Morris men's hockey program.
My hot take is this. It's simple. These guys were the best players on the best teams in Robert Morris history. They should be recognized as such. Have some more respect for these 3 guys.
You're saying you should put some respect on their names. I feel like we already did mentioning them at, what was it, say number 5.
It should be higher. It should be top 3.
I mean, okay. I mean, we're saying
what
these
do you
are
put it over?
Very high. Mine, I have to say, it makes sense. These are 2 of the most lucrative seasons the Colonials have ever had, also back-to-back. What we're talking about here is 2 of the best teams they've seen. Now, as far as Schooley being higher, I grant the hiring of Schooley in his tenure here is great, but in these recent years, it hasn't seemed so great.
You mean when they lost last year? Last year, yeah, to AIC, who was ranked number 1 in the semifinals, or the year before that when they lost to Air Force, who was ranked number 1 in the finals. Look, he gets them there.
Derek Schooley is
it's not his fault they can't beat the top team in the conference when it matters, because they're not supposed to be that far to begin with.
Well, if they would have had a better regular season, they wouldn't be in this position where they're playing these top teams.
Okay, but then at the same point, you can say they get it done when it comes to crunch time in the tournament. They make those deep runs.
You can't argue that. I feel Derek Schooley is a great coach, but I would still put this higher than him. I would put it over Hockey at Hines. I'd put them number 2. Here's why. Listen, Hockey at Hines, we love it here because we had some people do that.
They played Niagara.
Yeah, big deal.
It was a regular season.
All right. I'm sick of both of you. Well, that's all we have for you. Have a great week. We'll see you next week on Colonial Sports Center.